Tonight on the Black Channel. Yeah, we gonna have to take a moment out for us to discuss these. Oh, the Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, well, folks, I gotta tell you, if you're surprised, not really sure why you would be surprised here, but by the way, in Georgia, look, if you were wondering what Stacey Abrams was, if you were wondering if she was just there to get the bag, if you were wondering if there were just a whole bunch of folks making a whole bunch of money, leading people into believing things, look no further. So first they went from saying that it was all in the bag, and I've been saying, by the way, this microphone has been saying since the very beginning, I've been saying this since the beginning, not happening. Look, folks, if you want to know, I was saying this here, and this story has been out for a few days, but I wanted to take it one at a time because I didn't want to confuse you, because the proper chronological order is looking at Ketanji Brown Jackson. And if you want to know why it is that Biden is just so obsessive and Biden has just been so hard, Ketanji Brown Jackson, oh, we need to do something like this. Well, Jason, why this move? Why now? This is why. This is why. If you want to know what it was about, this is why. If you want to know why it is shameless pandering going on, this is why. If you want to know why it is that it's degenerated to this point, this is why. Among other things. But just understand there's a number of different folks out here, and they've been on the losing end of things. They've been on the losing end, and this year is looking worse than ever, so they are pulling out all the stops. They're pulling out all the stops. But there are specific lessons to be learned in here. There are specific lessons to be learned, specific things for you to look at. First of all, I want you to understand that you don't really have a whole lot of options where any of this is concerned because, by the way, Raphael Warnock is 52 years old, which is actually kind of good in this relation because Herschel Walker is 60. Herschel Walker is 60. I don't know which one of them is the worst butt dancer. I don't know which one of them is the worst impersonation of Steven from Django Unchained. I don't know which one is worse, to be totally honest with you here. So it doesn't matter which side of the political aisle that you go on, they have chosen only the Negroes who are predisposed to sell you out. And on tonight's program here, we're going to take a trip down memory lane to go ahead and remind you of that. There's a whole lot of things I could show you. There are a whole lot of things I could show you in that regard because there are people who are not understanding it, or at least they don't want to understand it. It's hard to get folks to face reality when they have bought into things. It's hard to get them to face that. But what I would like to do here, let me go ahead and show you our good friend, Reverend Raphael Warnock. He had a few choice words here to say a little while ago, and I just wanted you to listen here. You got folks sitting up here trying to tell us, listen to the language, okay? Listen to the language.
creates intelligence and integrity on all sides of town, on both sides of the railroad track. That God raises up brilliance and excellence among the despised, the marginalized, and the rejected, and they're so given over to the God of white supremacy that even when God shows up with brilliance and intelligence right in front of them, they can't see it. Come here, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. They can't see it even when it's sitting right in front of them, because they're bowing down to an idolatry that says some skin is better than other skin. Choose ye this day whom you will serve. There is but one God.
Okay, so now is Raphael Warnock. So now is he channeling Jeremiah Wright? Is he now channeling that? Make sure you all are sharing and liking tonight's program. By the way, if you're liking what you're hearing, hit the like button for me. I wanted to tell you all, just understand, they're trying to sound like the Black Channel. That was going to be the way they were going to do this, is frame this using our language and say, oh, she is the representative against white supremacy. Really? She sat there with ruling after ruling against black people, but then you're telling the masses that she's our representative against white supremacy. Yeah, we're going to co-opt the language. We're going to co-opt the language. She is the voice against white supremacy. Really? She's the voice against white supremacy. Never mind the fact that she is literally laying up. She's literally booed up with white supremacy. Never mind that. You have to be pretty dense to fall for something like this. You have to be pretty dense for that. But there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. Let's go ahead and let Warnock keep bug dancing.
Some skin is better than other skin. Choose ye this day whom you will serve. There is but one God. Did y'all see my co-workers? Acting the fool? Cutting her off? Disrespecting her? She showed amazing grace.
She showed amazing duplicity. She was asked what a woman is, and she's nominated for being a first black woman. She was asked what a woman is, and she's, I don't know. They should have told her, man, we're bringing up Rachel Dolezal. She's going to be the black woman on the Supreme Court. I bet you old Ketanji Brown Jackson would have jumped up real quick then if they had told her that Caitlyn Jenner was going to be the first black woman on the Supreme Court. And well, Ketanji, since you can't define it, we're calling up Caitlyn Jenner. I bet you her little Oprah Winfrey bodily ass would have jumped up real quick. Wait a minute now, you can't do that now. I bet you she would have figured out the definition of a woman real damn fast. She would have cracked out the damn anatomy book, right here, fallopian tubes. Okay. I don't think that would have lasted any amount of time. So that was the end of the video there, and you can learn a lot from a dummy. You can learn a lot from a dummy. When you go and check out those hashtags, for example, there, you go and check those out, and you'll see some folks in there. They're really upset about the poll. I'm going to come back to that here in just a few moments. Okay, who is this dude? It's a damn shame. Darn shame how the GOP are pushing Herschel Walker, a candidate with a history of domestic violence and severe mental illness, in the Georgia senator's race. And Republicans are proving daily their lack of ethical standards and moral authority. Well, yeah. Well, I'm kind of interested here, Mr. Frost. Mr. Frost seems to be real concerned about this for some strange reason. I'll go check him out and see. Well, okay, as you can see, he's a Ketanji Brown Jackson bumper sticker lifetime holder. Alabama-born, thoughts on politics, religion, food, and film. Lover of sweet potatoes. When you listen to old niggas, just understand they've got no clue what the actual damn issues really are. This fella is really talking about love sweet potatoes. Now, if I sat here and told you all that that's what it was, you would swear I was mocking him. You wouldn't actually believe, Jason, you lying. That's not what this is. He didn't really say that, Jason. Stop mocking him. No, this is really what he thinks. Okay, let's go ahead and take a stroll down the scroll. All right, he's got some thoughts about Herschel Walker. Pretty sure he's on black folks. Okay, what is this? What is this? Now, my ears went up when I saw this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you all can see this a little bit better. My ears went up when I saw this. When I saw this, I was like, okay, something's wrong here. Something's real wrong here. Something is real wrong when you got somebody jumping up and saying this, and then all of a sudden I take a look at their page and basically it's just general purpose. Something is real wrong. I want you all to understand that in this day and age on the internet, you have a whole bunch of stuff out here that is simply set up for the purposes of steering not just your politics, but steering your social agenda. That's the thing I want you to understand. It's not just about politics. It is about steering your social agenda. About getting you to say, well, it's not just about black folk. It's about climate change. And it's about, all the don't worry about it. That's what it is, okay? Don't worry about it. We need to understand that this is what we're doing here. So just understand what we're looking for, okay? Not bad about that. That you need to be here for. Now, why am I making an issue of this and why am I dragging this out now? Because I want you to understand here, if you take a look at this guy's page, I just thought it would be an interesting time here. Let's go ahead and go on a stroll down the scroll. Okay, he doesn't like Herschel Walker. Got it. Senora Huerta. Okay. I'm assuming it's Senora. He's worried about Chicano civil rights movement. I wonder if the rest of his timeline reflects this or if it reflects something else. Stick around, sports fans. Well, here he goes with the phony Christian act. Okay. You gotta watch out. These old niggas, they always rag this out because church is a civil service organization for them. Well, what do you know? There's Paul Robeson. Because my father was a slave and my people died to build this country and I'm going to stay right here and have a part of it just like you, and no fascist-minded people like you will drive me from it. Is that clear? Yeah. Paul Robeson. No more Chicano activists. Okay, he's got some words about Tim Scott. Okay. More Ketanji Brown Jackson butt kissing. More of that. Yeah. All of a sudden now here he is stomping for Doug Jones. So I just want you to understand this is what you see on Twitter When you take a look at people sitting up here talking about Raphael Warnock, when you see that, and when you see these old folk doing it, I want to take you on a ride through that so you can see this is part of an overall agenda. Part of an overall agenda is what I'm trying to tell you. So when you see those kind of things, are they really here to help you? I would suggest to you that they're not. I would suggest to you that they're not. They're not really here to help you. They're not really here for that. Especially as they get older or they latch on to old folks doing things. You got to understand that. That's what they're really going for. And it turns into something else. It turns into something else. When you're going down through the numbers and things, especially where Warnock was concerned there, I found it interesting when you look them up. Not just Mr. Frost. Not just Mr. Frost. There were some other people there. This one here. Reelect your great senator. If you don't, she doesn't live in Georgia. All right. Perfectly fine. You got all your ducks lined up. A whole bunch of other folk here. They're talking about Herschel Walker. You don't really want to go down this road, by the way. If you're Raphael Warnock, there's a reason you don't want to go straight down. You don't want to go down this road. You got some folks here trying to connect the dots from Stacey Abrams to Raphael Warnock to Ketanji Brown Jackson. This is an overall political strategy to try to keep them afloat during bad years. By the way, you take a look, Gwinnett Democrats, the Gwinnett Democratic Party, the Gwinnett Democratic Party, they got 2,600 followers on Twitter. The Gwinnett Democratic Party, and take a look at who they boosting. Take a look at who they're boosting here. Raphael Warnock for the Senate. This Ossoff guy for the Senate. Stacey Abrams for KFC. I don't know. All right. Think about that for a moment. Think about that for a moment. Here's Rev Warnock telling us that white supremacy would be glad to... Okay, what is this right here? Who are you? Daria Neal. Raphael Warnock standing to support the confirmed Judge Jackson vote and calling out misogynoir. Oh boy. Huh. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at her page right quick. Oh, what do you know? I already had that up and going. Spelman alumna, historian, mom, educator, excuse me, she didn't say wife. Mom, educator, snarky commentator, but they are good and funny. No, they're neither good nor funny. My issues need a subscription. No, your issues need a prescription. And parenting ain't for, well, it shouldn't be for you either. Looking like Jadakiss. All right. Needless to say, you go down her page here. Yeah, you start seeing some of the same old stuff here. Your HBCUs. So you have to understand, for people who put all their baskets in HBCUs, they don't actually have a real job or a real skill. Next thing you know, you start hearing about this kind of stuff. Okay. Neurodiversity. So LGBT here. Thank you. Oh, look. More about Spelman, about colleges. More about that. So no wonder she would be interested in kissing their asses. You all have to understand, this is the pathology of the old Negroes. The old Negroes only have one game plan and only one retirement plan in life, and that is to wrap their lips around enough white folks' butts to be able to float them. And that is it. That is why I brought you the pathetic story of Jennifer Lewis. She has been a walk-on cameo actress in Hollywood, cameo character actress in Hollywood for decades. She is everybody's grandmama. She was everybody's mama. Now she's been everybody's grandmama. But when you read her memoir, she's been everybody's something else. And oh yes, I'm gonna do it to you. I sure am.
It's rolling.
We've come a long way
to Justice Brown Jackson.
We came in to celebrate
Justice Brown Jackson.
We came from Harriet and Sojourner
to Justice Brown Jackson.
Ida B. Wells and Dr. King.
Justice Brown Jackson.
Shirley Chisholm.
Justice.
Do you see the Negro up front? This dude is doing the most, ain't he?
Justice Brown Jackson.
He is working that man bun, isn't he?
Justice Brown Jackson.
A black woman on the Supreme Court.
Justice Brown Jackson.
A beautiful, intelligent woman.
Justice Brown Jackson.
Justice. On the Supreme Court.
Okay, about the red gloves, was she doing dishes that day? She just stopped what she was doing and said, okay, we can't wait. The cameraman is here now and we can't wait, so we're gonna do your dishes. All right. But the reason I wanted to do tonight's program here is because I want you to understand, remember, there is an agenda of the old, and we're here to examine what the old folks are doing because young people in particular, I want you to recognize these kind of things. The old folk have a different agenda altogether, and what is it that they expect out of politics? They expect simply to have recognition, and by recognition, I mean they simply wish to have their existence acknowledged. That is all they want. You're talking about reparations, and they're talking about, hey, can I take a photo op with Joe Biden? All the other girls at the Supreme Court, they'll love it. If I can just take a photo op with him. If you got different priorities, that's going to be another thing. You see, my point is that I'm trying to make here is that there's a bunch of you and whatnot. I literally don't think that your goal is to dance for somebody who you don't know what they're doing. And I don't think that your social priorities include damn me sweet potatoes. Now, I could be wrong. But for some strange reason, I don't think that most of you consider yourselves to be serious thinkers or even fully matured adults, that this is the standpoint through which you would approach life. And understand, this is a very small group of people who are very, very vocal and loud on the internet. They're very, very good about that. But that's their job. 200 followers, 1,700 followers since 2009. 1,700 followers. Why is it you didn't catch on? You didn't catch on because most other people are not sitting up here just carrying an agenda saying, well, vote for them because somebody else told you to. You don't have a plan. The civil rights generation did not have that. The old folk don't have that. And what I'm telling you all is that they've been chasing something for decades here now. Now, the other folk have known about this. Now, I went digging a little bit further here because I wanted you to see what they looked like way back then. Now, we're talking about only a few years after the Panthers basically got decimated by COINTELPRO, and this is what she was doing. This is what... Yeah, she's a granny today, but back when she was young and thotty... Back when she was young and thottish, Back when she could get that kind of action going, oh, it was a whole different scenario back then. It was a whole different thing. I mean, take a look at the grin on that face. Back when she used to be able to get away with that kind of thing. Yeah, you see her today and she's got her Metamucil and her Depends and her Geritol. Yeah, you see that now. Yeah, but back in the day when she could get it crunk, back then, it was a whole different set of priorities. She got to Hollywood and was like, look, here's a white man who is willing to just sit up here and he is in town for the layup. He's here for the layup and I'm here for it. And all these decades later, she is still proud of it, by the way. She ain't happy, she's proud about it. Now, while this might sound a little distasteful to some of you, and by the way, hit my likes button for me, people. YouTube is trying to make it look like nobody likes this program here tonight. If you all like what you're hearing, hit the likes button. I know it's controversial, but if you like what you're hearing, hit the likes button. And make sure you share this. So while the rest of the internet might be talking about Jennifer Lewis, I just thought you all might want to take a moment to see what she used to look like before she became the buck dancing granny, back when she was young and she could pull. Back when she was young and had D cups and she could pull. Let's be clear, back when she was younger and had D cups and she could pull something, this is what she was focused on. And what I'm saying to you is that once you realize that, then is it really a surprise when you see this? Are you really surprised when you see this? I did this last night, but I want to do it again because I'm hoping that this will help put it into context for you all. I did this last night, but I want to do it again because I want to put this into context for you so that you see it in its proper context, hopefully. Hopefully you'll see it in its proper context and digest it in a way that most of these people have not been thinking for you to digest it in. Sure. Hit the music.
Rolling. We've come a long way
To Justice Brown Jackson.
We came in to celebrate.
Justice Brown Jackson.
We came from Harriet and Sojourner
To Justice Brown Jackson.
Ida B. Wells and Dr. King.
Justice Brown Jackson.
Shirley Chisholm.
Justice Brown Jackson.
Barbara Jordan and Maxine Waters.
Justice Brown Jackson.
We came here to celebrate
Justice Brown Jackson.
a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Justice Brown Jackson.
A beautiful, intelligent woman.
Justice Brown Jackson.
Justice on the Supreme Court.
I just thought that maybe a bit of a visual aid would help for those of you who've seen the video and give you an opportunity to digest it a little bit differently now. I think that song hit a little bit different when you have these visuals. I think it hits a little bit different. And the reason why I bring that up is because at this critical juncture in history, it is important that particularly young black people understand what the priorities of the olders really are. Their priorities are to be seen. Their priorities are to be accepted. Their priorities are to get any type of recognition that they can. Their priorities are simply to be allowed into the room. And that if white daddy is willing to shake hands with them, they are willing to let bygones be bygones. But just understand, the only way that they can allow bygones to be bygones is if they sell out your future. And to them, selling out your future is a political strategy. I want to say that again because it would be painful for you to hear. Selling out your future is their political strategy. They're not looking for, interested in anything else. They are more than willing to go ahead and do that. So when we ask all the intelligent questions, they tell you to pipe down. But I just wanted to give you a brief reminder here that back when your granny, you want to know about your Democrat voting granny, who's sitting up here trying to give Joe Biden a pass now, if you want to know what she was doing way back when, yeah, but before the crow's feet set in and the arthritis started whooping her ass, if you want to know what she was doing back then, if you want to have some idea of what her priorities were back then, you see, I've told you all for years now, you all need to go check out your parents' younger pictures. Go tell your parents, I want to see when your parents are sitting up here cooning and buffooning and butt dancing, and that includes those of you who are children of immigrants. You all need to go ask your parents, let me see some pictures of you when you was younger. I've told you all for years, stop taking their word for it. Go get the photographic evidence. You go find some pictures of them when they were younger. Next thing you know, ooh, boom, a bone fall out the closet. Oh, you got some skeletons in the closet here. Some of y'all's kinfolk got whole damn rib cages in the closet. You thought it was just going to be a femur bone. It's like, oh, this is a whole damn rib cage. Back when they were young and spry, and when you asked them, well, what were you doing when black people were revolting in the streets? They was bedwenching in the sheets. I ain't got bars for you. I ain't got bars for you. No, don't tell me about no damn Herschel Walker. You know what the hell he was doing back in the day. Now we know what he was doing. And that's why I wanted to take a moment here to realign you about this, because as you hear about these issues going forward, if you want to know why it is that they're so desperate to make this into a sideshow and why the symbolism matters so damn much to them, if you want to know why it is, this gives you a glimpse into it. They are determined to try to fire up the old folks in the hopes of staving off the inevitable. Because what they need, if the only way you're going to stop Herschel Walker is if you can galvanize the black vote in Georgia. That's the only way you can stop this. You're going to have to galvanize the black vote on the Democrat side. You'll have to galvanize that. They're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because Herschel used to be a football player. Oh, hell. We got celebrities and the clergy. Oh, boy. We got pro athletes versus the clergy. This is going to be a tough one. Oh, this is going to be a tough one, isn't it? Sports entertainers versus religious entertainers. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Some of the people here were talking about, well, Herschel Walker, his ex-wife said XYZ, his ex-wife said XYZ, his ex-wife is talking about, he pointed a gun at him and whatnot. Yeah, well, Raphael Warnock, I think, if y'all want to know why Raphael ain't said very much about that, if you want to know why Raphael don't really want the conversation to turn to ex-wives, if you wanted to have some idea about why Raphael's going to be like, yeah, well, you know, I got no comment. No comment. You don't really want them passing the mic to people's ex-wives. You don't really want this happening. That's not really what you want. It just seems like a good idea, and it just seems like they're vulnerable. No, you want to bypass that one. You want to bypass that one. But to the young black people listening here, just understand these folks are playing a damn game where they're telling you that interracial sexual access is new, it is novel, and they're sitting up here selling you out first and foremost. And I want you to understand that's what the game is here. Old black people, their idea of politics is, well, will they look at me and can I be seen? Your survival is not going to be depending on whether or not you can be seen. Your survival is going to depend on whether or not your issues and your priorities are met. Not about whether or not you can be seen by somebody. Not whether or not you can be acknowledged. As young people, you're not sitting there looking for somebody to pat you on the damn head. But you have to understand, many of your parents and grandparents who are still out here today, that's what they're looking for. Can I get a pat on the head? Can I get a handshake? Can I get a plaque? Can I get a ring? Can I get an acknowledgement? Can I take a photo op? That's how old black folk think about politics. So they sit on the internet talking like peach fuzz and talking about sweet potatoes and candied yams. That's their priorities, and you should be too embarrassed to say something like that. Young black folk, that's not funny to them. Now, what I said here before, that sounds kind of ridiculous, but what I'm about to say next isn't very damn funny. When you're out here with the police gunning you down, you're being gentrified out of your neighborhoods. Let me tell you something right now. You are in the most expensive society that we have ever witnessed in this country. Right now, millennials and young people are being thrown into the damn meat grinder with no resources. If you thought that all this stockpiling of resources over generations was harmless or that it was marginally affecting you, you go and take a look at it. The average median home price in America now is over $400,000. People, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. With inflation kicking in the way it is, depending on where you are, is between $360,000 and $400,000. That's not a little bit. That's your whole damn life. That's your whole damn life. And that doesn't matter to damn me, Jennifer Lewis, because back when she was your age, she had a white man she could lay up under. Now that she's old and decrepit, she can sit up here and probably got a couple of others that now to keep her quiet, we better put her on a TV series so she can show up on a regular basis, and that'll at least shut her up. We don't want her to get yapping at the mouth too much. Yeah, she has that option. How about you? How about you? You can talk about voting in Georgia. How many of you, damn me, can afford to live in the Atlanta area? How many of you can afford to live in Gwinnett, DeKalb, Augusta? I mean, I'm not even talking about Buckhead and the usual name dropping. I'm talking about those other places. How many of you can even afford to live there? Hell, can you find a place to live? With people telling you that you need to be worrying about playing football about the Supreme Court and on the Supreme Court, and that the agenda needs to be about that. Well, you know she black like you. Go in, go in. What about my interests and resources? Well, we'll come back around to that later. What? If you thought that the stockpiling of resources, if you thought that allocating tangible benefits to illegals, if you want to know why it is you have so many illegals sitting there in Atlanta and all those areas like that, it's like, how in the hell is it they just came across the damn border and they're able to survive, and you come from 5, 6, 7 generations of black people here and you can't make it? Yeah, because they're being given assistance. So instead of them they're not working their way up. They're being given everything they need. Healthcare, schooling. Oh yeah, by the way, think about this for a few moments here. You don't even live in the damn country. You got black folk going to jail for sending their children to school and they don't live in the district. You aren't even from the same nation. You just came across the border. How in the hell are you able to enroll children at all? And you're not even a citizen. So you have black folk who are citizens being sent to jail because you sent your kids to school and you don't live in the district. Meanwhile, an illegal alien who doesn't even live in the country is able to send their kids to school here. And nobody is asking any questions. Nobody's doing anything. If you think that playing this damn game of political sports where you just have a jersey and you have a mascot and you're not interested in getting anything tangible or concrete for yourselves, if you think that's smart, you learn that crap from the civil rights generation and the old folk. They were interested in looking for and being mascots. You all are being driven out of these places. You notice that they're saying all these stories, there are new stories now coming out talking about how black folk are no longer able to live in the cities and, quote, are having to go outside of the cities, but they can't really say the suburbs, to be totally honest. Well, you're not building any housing out there. Black folk can't afford that. I said this a decade ago. They're just being pushed out of whole states. Black folk are having to leave the state of New York and coming down south, and they got a big ass surprise coming because a bunch of them are leaving from New York and they don't know anything about the South. So what they're doing is they're scrambling to 3 places in particular. They're going to Atlanta, they're going to Charlotte, and they're going to Atlanta, they're going to Charlotte, and they're going to DC. And they got a big ass surprise waiting for them in all those areas. The old folk told you that this was viable, while they were sitting up here fighting for recognition, fighting for to be acknowledged, fighting for a pat on the head. We're out here talking about concrete tangibles, and they're telling us, well, don't worry, symbolism works. Well, yeah, gentrification wasn't a major issue 30 years ago, 40 years ago. When Jennifer Lewis had a couple of zaddies willing to let her be the late night jump off. They wouldn't even do it during daylight. Remember, they didn't have cameras around the city all over the place back then in the early 80s. Yeah, when they could creep around with you, you all don't have that option. And the old folk are telling you that as long as you've got, quote, representation, you don't have any representation. The people that they've chosen are already predisposed against you. What do you have to show in Atlanta for all your years of Keisha Bottom B? I'll wait. What do you have to show for all those years of recognition and acknowledgement? It doesn't matter whether they, quote, won or whether they lost. I can show you a white man who's standing there with them and whatnot. And that, what did it do for us? What did it do for you? No, you don't need concrete tangibles. The old folk told you that. You know why the old folk told you that? The old folk told you that because they were like, I don't really give a damn about that. Damn it, nigga, I got mine. They're looking at you young people and saying, I got mine. You're sitting up here, they think they were really fly because they're like, hell, I was able to bag me a white man back post-segregation. I was really tough back then. Okay, you're able to sit up here and lay it with Zaddy because you got somebody in your DMs on Instagram. Meanwhile, you don't have a place to live. Your job is paying you less. You're outsourced all over the damn place. The economy is threatening to destroy you. The old folks are saying, but we got ours. We got ours. Now you try to go get yours. And we will keep you entertained with political entertainment and sports entertainment. And then after you've assisted us getting where we're supposed to be, where we want to be at, then you're just left out there in the lurch. Never forget that right now on their Twitter pages, Kamala Harris and friends are sitting up there talking about gays, illegals, and every damn thing else. The black folk who put him in office, not a word. And the old black folk called ignoring their own interests, they renamed that playing the game. Well, you know, we ain't gonna require them to acknowledge us in public because we require that there, so that'll turn people's off. So I'm okay with them not acknowledging me in public. So, man, don't worry. We need to vote for them now, and they ain't gonna give us something on the back end. Get them what they want now, and don't force them. They love acknowledgement, except when it's time to get elected. Then they don't require it then. Well, we ain't gotta get them in particular now. What in the world keeps them so happy and so satisfied and so placated? Because white folk know if you acknowledge them, these old folk are so starved for attention. If you acknowledge them for just a moment, they will remember that for the rest of their damn lives. This woman is, today she's now like 65. When this article came out, she was 60. She was 60 and still beaming. She was 60 and still beaming. And by the, I laid up with John Voight back in the Dance Fever Soul Train era. 60. Trying to tell you that Ketanji Brown Jackson is the second coming of, I don't know. And telling you, by the way, if you want to know where her head is at, in the 21st century, she's still talking about, she's bragging to the world about how she got run through back in the early 80s. Back in the Run DMC era. My Adidas, oops, meant to say hoops. Jennifer Lewis in the Raggedy Suite. That's what she was doing. So as young black people, you have to ask yourselves whether or not you wish to repeat this. If you want to know why it is the old folks seem like they're out to lunch, they're not out to lunch. The bottom line is they already got theirs. They're just voting or advocating to keep what they already got. They're not trying to elevate nothing. They just want to keep coasting and cruising where they are. We're the only ones talking about upsetting the apple cart. We're the only ones talking about disrupting the status quo. They don't want to disrupt the status quo. They're okay with their old house and their old car. They go to the church and get to look at some of the old folk they used to lay up with back in the day, the ones who were still alive. They get to trade stories about prescription medications and get to talk about the grandkids, whether they're alive, in college, or in jail, and then claim it's not their fault. And then they all sit around in a great big ass geriatric circle telling you that they didn't have anything to do with the way things have turned out. But enough from me for now. We're going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines here in a few moments. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. You are welcome to give us a call. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here. Miss Halleck, Miss Logan, Miss Carla, Andrew L., Keith, and everybody else who's contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal or Cash App. It is very much appreciated. When we come back, we'll be taking your phone calls and more. Thank you all very much for joining us here tonight. This is The Black Channel.
I am black first. I am empowered. I am on code. I am motivated. I am a proud foundational. My name is Noria Sellers, and nothing will come between us. Buy the sci-fi novel, Nothing Will Come Between Us. Order today at Amazon and Google Play. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com. Our story, our family.
Join 6zeros.net, a forum built to discuss all things relevant to black people. On our forum, a check doesn't mean you're famous. It means your blackness has been verified by our staff.
Sorry, Chad.
We also have premium merchandise with same-day shipping on most orders. And when you're ready for some dope content, check out the 0 Hour blog.
Don't you sign up, post.
I'm having a really good time with you tonight.
I'm having a good time with you too.
Want to go somewhere private? Just for us?
I like that.
Great. Meet me at 6zeros.net. Black owned, black operated.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
The future of legal betting is finally here. Place a bet using CashApp with Bitcoin right over the phone. Unlike with traditional gambling sites, every bet you place with us, you're guaranteed a 50% probability of winning. All of our bets are one-on-one against a real person and never the house. We offer some of the most unique bets in the industry. Bets like, will LeBron James win his 5th NBA title? Will Joe Biden be elected for a second term? Will Tesla be worth $1 trillion by the end of 2022? You can even bet on if it will rain tomorrow. You can literally bet on any future event. Text the phrase "I bet" to the number on the screen, and I'll reply with a list of all our available bets.
Are you tired of being overcharged and forced into paying a monthly subscription for your Mac and Windows software? Well, if you are, currently we're having a 50% off discount on all the latest Mac and Windows software, such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and much more. Our 50% off discount will be ending soon, so be sure to text us "Need Software" to 323-407-8214. That's 323-407-8214. We aim to please, so expect 24/7 technical support, the latest premium software, instant software links delivered to your email, and PayPal's buyer's protection guarantee.
When you need a reliable influx of capital to grow your business, Spectre Capital Finance provides fast, individualized working capital loans with lines of credit to take your business to the next level. SpectreCapitalFinance.com.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And what I want to do here on tonight's program, I want to open up the phone lines here and I want to ask a simple question here. How do you think old black people think about politics? Please don't give us a lecture. Keep your answers brief. But I'm asking a question. How do you think old black people think about politics? What do you think their goal is? And if you think that we've gotten things wrong here tonight, you are more than welcome to give us a call. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. If you are one of the aforementioned old black folk and you think y'all got it right, by all means, if you think we're on the right track, if you think supporting Ketanji Brown Jackson is being on the right track, then by all means, you're welcome to give us a call as well. And let's go ahead and hear what you have to say here. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Let me get caller from area code 312. You're on live with The Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Pat from Chicago. How you doing?
Pat from Chicago. What's on your mind?
You know what, Jason? I'm upset with you tonight, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you play that Butter Biscuit song one more time, I keep laughing. I can't stop laughing. That song is so... Oh, God, it's so Butter Biscuits. Listen, you're right on the money. It's so sad because you're right, you're spot on. A lot of our elders, you know, back in the day, the 60s, the 70s, a lot of them, they really did not have any long-term goals for the generation. Like you said, a lot of them, they were just seeking, you know, sexual pleasure. That was also during the disco era. You know, let's not forget that. You know, it was during the Cocaine Cowboys, the Weekend Wars. So I think that they were really just looking for a cultural, social revolution and not an economic one. And I think that's the difference between the generations. But that Butter Biscuit song, I can't stop laughing. Don't play that thing no more.
Well, I think you make a very good point is that today we're talking about socioeconomic revolution, not interpersonal and just social change. We're not interested in finding a new group of people to socialize with. We're like, whether you like us or don't, whether we get to socialize with you or not, whether we never meet you in life, we need to have our economic situation as the foundation of determining our quality of life. Those folks, they didn't do that. Now, don't get me wrong. There were a number of people who were motivated by that. Dr. King, Malcolm X, the leadership was. But what they found out was, a lot of the rank and file, and they're just kind of really sitting out here bull jiving is what they're doing. They're really just sitting out here bull jiving. So give them some government jobs and let them shop in the stores next to white folk, and guess what? They'll get out of the streets. Okay, but what that doesn't do is secure anything for your children. It secures something for you, small, meager, short term. What it doesn't do is secure anything for your children, and it doesn't make them a viable threat to the status quo. So, of course, why wouldn't you do it? Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 870. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jason, what's up? This Trendset out of Dallas.
Okay, try that again.
Hey, this Trendset out of Dallas.
Okay, Trendsetter out of Dallas, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jason, you right. Originally, I'm from Osceola, Arkansas, and my great-grandmother was born in the 40s. Her daddy passed her down a house. Houses back then cost $1 in Osceola. She worked at a job for a penny a day, saved up her money for a year, and bought 8 houses over the time. Okay. Now, when she got old, my great uncle, convinced her to give her those properties. And she said no, she wanted to save those for the grandchildren so they can have something. He promised her that he would do right by us. She said okay. She gave him up the houses, and within 2 days, he sold everything. Now, mind you, he used to come in the hood every day talking about and meet coats, telling the kids, if you want to be rich, you got to work hard. Now, we didn't know that he sold us out. We weren't thinking like this. So, over the years, when he sold everything, my granny was sick as a dog. She was sick as a dog, and he ended up losing everything. Because just like a raisin in the sun, these white folks and these corporations convinced him to put money in the deal, and they ran off on him. So now he has nothing, and now we have nothing. So, Jason, everything you're saying is right. My granny and her daddy passed her down the house, and she did work for multiple houses, and my uncle sold us out. So, and by the way, my granny, she was the most powerful woman in Osceola, Arkansas. It was her and the drug dealer that had the most properties out there. So, listening to your program made me realize that you're absolutely right about that.
Well, most black people, and thank you very much for giving us a call, most black people who had family who came out of slavery and whatnot, most black folk did own some properties because they understood they had to back then. Intellectual property wasn't the thing back then. Physical property was. So a lot of you got families and folks who they had a lot of property. They had to. But they had to work 10 times harder than the white folk to get the same thing. And then had to try to hold it. And then when the Highway Act comes through, next thing you know, the Highway Act, eminent domain, and everything else they could to take it from them. So, yeah, you had to work a whole lot harder. But the real question becomes, what are you doing it for? Because if you don't have a clear vision of why you're doing it, then guess what? Property doesn't matter, and then your politics don't matter. Let me get caller from area code 706. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay.
I'm Enoch.
To everybody calling here, if you have speakers on or anything else, you need to turn those off before you call in.
Can you hear me, Jason?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm trying not to hear myself. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Enoch from Augusta, Georgia. How are you doing, sir?
Enoch from Augusta. And how do the old black people think about politics?
Selfish interest, sir. Selfish interest. That's what they think about politics. It's all about themselves, no one else. No vision, no future. That's how they view politics.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 305. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Delana from Frisco, Texas.
Delana from Frisco, Texas. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
They're I feel like it's like a fashion show, if you will. They like the symbolism of it, but they don't really see the bigger picture. Just to give you a little background about myself, I come from 2 immigrant parents. And my mom is really happy that Ketanji Brown, got nominated, but I'm not a fan of hers, especially after what she did to those employees. I work 2 jobs. I'm in school, and I don't like I just don't like how things are going. It's a joke. And I was born in '89, just to give you a little bit of background about myself. So everything that you're saying is true. It is refreshing to know that I'm not the only person that feels the way that you guys feel about what's going on, because I'm always looked as the oddball because I think different or I see things different, and I'm not with the go along to get along, if you will. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 469. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Thomas calling from Dallas, Texas.
Thomas from Dallas. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, Jason, I know you said you can't trust these old niggas, but you can't trust these old hoes either. I mean, this is what I call political bedwetching. I mean, really, the old people, man, they didn't care about their kids. They didn't care about their grandkids. They just wanted to sell us down the river, man. I mean, we really out here all alone. I mean, I just want the young folks to remember that your parents and your grandparents, they don't care. When it comes to politics, they just trying to get what they can get and get out of here. I mean, you can see that right now. I mean, it's sickening, and it's sad that our parents and our grandparents didn't care, and it's showing in politics. I mean, you can look at how they vote, you can look at how they live. They just gave up on us, and they really didn't give a damn about us. So the young people are gonna have to continue to do what we're gonna have to do, and just look past it, because it's sad, man.
You know, you raise a very good question, though, Thomas. You raise a very good question. Right. It is a brutal, frightening question to ask, but it's a very good one. How many of you are willing to consider the possibility, and I've talked about this before, that the older black folk do not care about your interests whatsoever? That when they walk into the voting booth, they have a whole separate agenda from you and yours altogether. How many of you are willing to consider that? That when these old black folk are voting for politicians, they're not thinking about you at all. Case in point, remember when I was doing my program here in 2020, and I asked folks, okay, if you support Joe Biden, call in. They called in and they talked about, well, I support Joe Biden because of COVID and because I'm a teacher and I work at the HBCU and we can't vote for Trump. None of them said because of the children, because of the future, because of my son and daughter, because of what I'm passing down. None of them said that. What they were talking about were their own immediate interests here and now. They were not talking about the next generation in any way, shape, form, fashion, or manner. So it is a frightening thing to consider. I want to know how many of you out there listening to me right now, are you willing to consider and think over, ask yourself the question, by the way, do these older folk out here, do they have an agenda that, as far as they're concerned, that their interests are not just unrelated to mine, but that their interests are counter to mine? That if my interests go forward, their interests lose. Think about that for a few moments. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get a call from area code 646. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Zonan from Queens.
Onan from Queens. What's on your mind?
So the problem with the older generation is that we don't look at politics from a point of power, but rather as just a way to kind of get along with the dominant society. And so I feel that the older generation willingly accepts whatever trinkets the parties are willing to give them, whether they be Democrat or Republican. And they don't take the future into mind. They just want their trinkets, and they want to go on about their way. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 206. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
PJ from Seattle.
PJ from Seattle. What's on? And how do you think old black people think about politics?
They don't think, they feel, and they ostracize people who do think.
That's an interesting way of
putting it. That's all I got.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 571. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Shakir. I'm calling from Arlington, Virginia.
Okay, Shakir from Arlington. What's on your mind?
When it comes to politics, nothing is contemptible for these old black people. And when I hear you talking, right, it makes me feel like Michael Corleone when he says to his brother Fredo, "You're nothing to me now. You're not a friend. You're not a brother. When you show up at the polls, let me know in advance so I don't have to be there." Black first.
Black first. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 405. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, it's Wynn from Oklahoma City.
Wynn from Oklahoma City. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
I got mine. So you try to get yours, young man. Yeah, that's pretty much how it sums up the whole nutshell. I got mine, try to get yours. And that's been the mentality for a while. As you can see, it's pretty evident. Nothing's really been done to move us forward. You did have some parents in Clarendon, South Carolina that filed a lawsuit right back in the day about unequal funding, right, for versus white schools, and then the NAACP they jumped in and they kind of messed it all up, and they chose integration over funding, and so again, nothing has really been done since then either. What do you think about that?
The old black generation, the methodology, rationale that they were operating under was, if we can compel white people to give us physical proximity, then that's going to open up all the other doors. If we can just get the system to allow us physical proximity, if they can stop physically segregating themselves, then that's going to give us everything. We're going to finally start getting the connections. We're going to finally be able to start networking. We're going to start getting the access to capital. That's going to open up all those doors that have been closed if we can legislate physical proximity. And of course, the great con job is that we've always had physical proximity. That's the problem. The problem isn't physical proximity to white people. The problem is physical proximity to resources. That's the problem. So you've got the same sexual access and the same slave play sexual access you've had since the very beginning. And you're no closer to, in the words of Dr. Claude Anderson, proportional comparative resources. You're no closer. Think about this for a few moments. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and remind you all. Yes, I damn well am, because you don't like it. Understand something. Jennifer Lewis has been in Hollywood now for longer than a lot of us been alive. I say in Hollywood. She's been floating around forever here. Think about this for a few moments. 40 years ago, she was a character actress on TV, struggling and trying to get by. 4 decades later, she is a character actress on TV struggling to get by. I want you all to think about that for a few moments. So when you see her buck dancing and jiggling and every damn thing else here and whatnot, just think about that for a few moments, where that comes from. And understand that's a serious damn thing. This woman has watched her damn life float by. And she thinks she's bragging. Then she got bedded by John Voight, now Republican archfiend, who says racism ain't really an issue anymore. Yeah, okay, but when she was young and spry, that didn't matter. And let's be very, very clear, John Voight was talking like that back then. Back when she was young, that was cute and that was something she could ignore. Oh well, if it gets me in with Zaddy, you know, I don't like them niggas neither. Oh, okay. All right. So you can be his dirty chocolate secret. He kept her in the hotel room just long enough. Okay, room service didn't even see her leave. And yet 4 decades later, if you want to know what the real power of proximity is, just ask Jennifer Lewis. Ask her how well proximity has worked out for her in 4 damn decades. While she's sitting up here buffooning and every damn thing else, you ask her if this worked out for her. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 321. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is John from Orlando. Yeah, they're totally brainwashed. My grandmother, she's in that generation, and I share things on Facebook because that's where all the old Negroes at on Facebook. And she's like, "Oh, he's sharing these conspiracy stuff," and it'd be stuff from Wall Street Journal whenever they do want us to tell the truth. And you show all the facts. I'll share your videos. Oh, this is conspiracy. They just listen to CNN and just regurgitate. And old black women like her from Hollywood, listen, Whoopi, she's from that generation. She's told, there's multiple actors said that Whoopi told them, you can't get ahead having a black husband in Hollywood. So there's a whole bunch of bedwenching going on in Hollywood. And then they want to be pro-black. And I noticed with black actresses, whatever they act on TV, they're that in real life.
Yeah, there's the thing right there about it is, on the one hand, you can't say, well, I only did it to go along to get along. Because then when you meet them in the real world, it's like, oh, wait a minute now, ain't no white folk here and you're still acting like that. So it's one thing if you're doing that to get a gig or whatever. Okay, there's no white folk here. You can turn off the coonery now. It's like, oh, no. So just understand that's all a game right there. That's not what they have to do. That's the excuse they're giving you. Woo-de-woo, I got to play the game and this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, well, there's no white folk around here. You're still talking like that. So it's not a game. They just think they're running a game on you. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 469. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is AJ from Dallas.
Okay, AJ from Dallas. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
I think to answer your question, they think about it the way they think about religion. It's the sit, wait, hope, faith complex. So then they translate that over to their politics. They don't know how to separate them. So instead of voting based on logic or looking at the perfect person for the job, they do it based on faith, hope, sit and wait. It's going to happen. Just give them one more try. That's all a religious kind of a mindset, in my opinion.
That's very interesting that they prescribe a religious methodology to politics. Yeah. Hope for the best. I can't do nothing, so just pray, hope for the best, and let Jesus change them. And of course, well, if you're a politician, why would you not enter the church? That's right. Vote for me. Jesus is appealed to me. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to have faith that Jesus is appealed to him as soon as he leaves out of here. All right, knock these niggas' house down. Very good way of putting that. I think that was very astute. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 415. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Denise in San Francisco.
Denise in San Francisco. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, I noticed when I used to hang out with them people at the NAACP, they was still voting like they was back in the 60s. They took the attitude that black people now should be voting for the privilege of voting. They felt like since it was denied to us, you just go out there and vote. Now, what party to vote for? Oh, the parties from the 60s, the Democrats who gave us a little tidbits. So you just keep voting for them decade after decade. Never mind what should you be voting for. Never mind should you be asking for certain things. No, you just vote for the privilege of voting.
Well, you know what? Once again, we got some pretty astute callers calling in tonight. Of course, they would be. They're my audience. What you just described is we are voting as a ritual.
Yep, that's it.
Now that's what you just described. We're not voting we're not voting to get tangibles. We're not voting for an agenda. We are voting because voting, I mean, what the previous caller said about they're prescribing religious connotations to it. We are voting because voting is our ritual now. It is now our ritual to engage in voting. So every 2 years, every 4 years, it's like Sunday go to meeting. This is our political ritual. That's very interesting. I like the sound of that. Thank you very much for giving us a call. That's actually a very astute way of putting that. This is our political ritual. Caller from area code 330. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, how you doing? This is Jay from Akron.
Jay from Akron, and how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, how they perceive and think about politics is vote blue no matter who. That's just like the last caller just articulated. To take it a step further, it is ritualistic, but again, they've been inculcated and proselytized throughout decades to believe that you can't discuss politics without discussing blackness and the Democrats together, in so much that you can't remove one of them without having a serious discussion of the process. And I think that's the disturbing part, is that they really look at voting as a part of their blackness, and only the Democrats. It can't be anyone else but someone besides someone voting blue. And I would even if you think about it, if a Republican came out and said, hey, I have a plan where I'm going to put reparations on the table specifically for Black Americans. We have an agenda. This is the platform that I'm running on. I'm 1,000% sure that the old black folks will say, we don't want it. Because this person's not a Democrat. So I guess I'll just leave that there. But thank you. Good B1.
Black First, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 972. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from 972 has been abducted. Caller from area code 504. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yes. What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, sir. This is Darius from Fayetteville by way of New Orleans. I want to say briefly that I enjoy your show. Just recently started listening. And to the point, getting straight to the point, many of the callers already hit many of the points that I wanted to nail in terms of the way old black folks think on voting. I think that they went from we to me, as you basically stated, and then now it's gotten to the point of just being able to have scraps or bone, accepting bones off of the master's table. You know, similar to, I was speaking to my mother, and she was just happy that, you know, we have a black man that was in the presidential office who did zero for the African-American or black community. Now looking at the Supreme Court nominee, looking at Kamala Harris and other their other counterparts, we're looking at people that have literally aided and abetted in the assistance and the destruction of our communities. But, you know, many of the old blacks, and even some of us of the same age, I know several people of the same age, I was born in 81 for context, who still have this shuck and jive, Bojangles, Sambo, cooning that is embedded within many of our communities, many of our family members. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's going to be up to us, and like the gentleman that just called, who used the example of a Republican person who may be on a platform with a legitimate agenda for our community. It's all about voting blue. I mean, we have to remember, Biden stated that he was going to pledge $450,000 per Afghan refugee. Now imagine if you have 5 family members in the same household, each getting $450,000, what they will be able to do with that money. right? Let alone Biden stated that he was going to pledge $12 billion to the Ukrainians. But then we have articles coming out where the Ukrainians have a high population of Nazis and they're racist. Okay, so I think it's time for us to do away, essentially, with these older black voters and politicians, and we need to start voting objectively and no longer subjectively. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 951. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, brother? This is Lamont. I'm calling from Southern California, a city called Riverside. A couple things. Everybody's already hit on most of the points. In that, black people, we are the least politically and educationally savvy group of voters. Everybody's already talked about how we're still stuck in the 1960s civil rights / church paradigm, and it just demonstrates our capturedness. We are already in the bag for the Democratic Party. I analogize it to being on autopilot or zombified, if you will. We vote for Democrats regardless to the situations. Everybody's had to debate with members of their family members that will debate them till they blue in the face on why we should ignore the fact that not only did Biden, sign the crime bill, but he wrote it. So that was a no-go zone for me in regards to Biden. I voted for Obama the first time, but since I've been allowed to vote, since I've been of age, I've only voted for Democrats once, and that was for Obama the first time.
Well, the interesting thing about that is when you talk about the crime bill and 3 strikes and whatnot, you'll find a fair number. I think that's one of the reasons why they appeal so much to old black women. This doesn't really work on young black women. The Ketanji Brown Jackson thing doesn't really work on younger black females as much as it does older ones. Well, yeah, because they were not as affected by draconian things like 3 strikes as black males were. So for them, it's like, I don't know, except for the single mothers who, had sons out there or something. But by and large, for the females, it wasn't directly targeting them. So for that reason, they may see 3 strikes a bit differently. Like, I don't see exactly what it does or what the intent is. Now, as soon as you change it, if you change it to something else, if 3 strikes had been in regard to child abuse or child abuse allegations, I think you would have seen a far different reception. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 310. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Diane White. I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Diane in Fayetteville.
I used to live in Los Angeles.
Okay, and how do old black people think about politics in your mind?
I think the concept of tangibles wasn't around before, because before LGBT and the immigrants became part of the civil rights movement, everything was really about black people. So any promises that came out were for black people. And I think over time, tangibles is more important. And I think black people have to get used to that, asking for something. We didn't used to have to ask because we were the only game in town.
Well, yeah, we've always had to demand it, actually. We've always had to demand it.
Why do you say that?
Because that's the record there. They've never given us anything. They've never given us a...
when they talked about doing things for the civil rights, after civil rights,
what did they talk?
Basically targeted
but what did they... No. Nope. Big misnomer here. Diane, how old are you?
66.
Baby, you should know better than this. You know better than this.
Why do you say that?
Ma'am, first of all, let's be very, very clear. This idea that you cannot do anything for a, quote, specific race of people, when amazingly the Constitution was written to penalize a specific race of people, then all of a sudden they tell you that they can't take legislative action for a specific race of people. So we can take legislative action to target you. We can't take legislative action to undo targeting you. Okay. But that's always been the way it is. Brown versus Board of Education was not not arguing that you should do something for black children. It was arguing that you couldn't do anything against them. Well, okay, but that's not doing something for them. Affirmative action. The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. And let's not even talk about immigration and refugee assistance. Let's not even talk about that. So nothing was
that
actually...
came in the late 60s?
No, that started then, because remember, we had an embargo, particularly if you're going to go watch my documentary 7 a.m., Woodrow Wilson was hard and heavy about blocking that kind of thing. So it's when you start seeing that in 65, 69, when they started changing the immigration laws to allow more people to come over, then that's when you start seeing that occurring. We really start to see it take off in the 80s under Reagan. There was the Immigration Act then. You've seen a number of minor ones and major ones since then to revamp green cards and stuff like that. So that's where they've gotten benefits from that. But here's the real thing. Going back to what you were saying specifically, though, black people have not been offered anything specifically. When you talk about desegregation, how is that a specific benefit to us? Because you can tell white folk that they have to do commerce, but you can't tell white folk that they have to let us in on the secret stuff that they're not talking about. You can't legislate that. So what needed to be legislated is what they're doing now. For Asians, nobody's offering Asians integration. They're offering them physical protections, and they're offering them financial resources. Will you please tell me, at what time has Congress gotten together and said we need to have a bill specifically to give financial resources specifically to black people by name? By name.
Never.
I can sit here and show you where during the pandemic they were doing that specifically for Asian people by name. We've never had anything like that. Even when you talk about, quote, civil rights, Dr. Claude Anderson has been decades talking about the fallacy of that. Civil rights, who the hell is civil? Because understand something, they knew this then. You have to use vague terms that can be redefined either now or at a later date. So when they were talking about, quote, civil rights, they knew even then, okay, this will placate black folk because they think they're going to be the prime targets of it. But over the course of the next 4 decades, we are going to redefine it, or at least take it to its final direction. And it's not going to have anything to do with black people. Well, Jason, how do you know?
So that was the plan all along?
Jason, how do you know that this was the plan all along? How do you know that because the first thing you say is, well, Jason, that's too far-fetched because you can't guarantee that any of those people would be here. Folks, how long? I said this last night. I will say this again, Diane. How long have Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden been in the federal government? Oh, hell.
50 years?
Oh, hell. So you mean Jim Crow Joe Biden, who was there to fight for segregation, 50 years later, he's now the president of the United States. Him and Mitch McConnell and a bunch of others in there. They are now the senior members of government. They are your minority whip, Jimbo Jangles Clyburn, who's their plantation Negro. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I'm saying they came up with this then. They're like, okay, remember, Joe Biden is a lawyer. I want to say Mitch McConnell is too. Kamala Harris is a lawyer. Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. These are all lawyers. Damn it, people. These are all lawyers. As you all know, it's a cliche. Most of your government, the U.S. government is made up of attorneys. So they understand, they're the ones who word the legislation. They understand what they're saying when they pass a, quote, law. They are lawyers, so they understand when they use the word civil, they've been sitting here the whole time and slowly but surely directing it in a different direction. And every time we grab the steering wheel to turn it back towards black people, oh, wait a minute now, trans, illegal aliens, women's. Every time we do that,
But it wasn't always.
No,
it wasn't
yes,
always.
it is.
Maybe women.
Yes. No. It has
The public's concept.
No, ma'am. It has always been that way. No, what you're saying is the public perception. Yes, and today the perception is still that when you hear the word civil rights, you must be referring to black folk because they keep using the terms civil rights.
Right.
They keep using the terms civil rights and civil rights movement of 1965 interchangeably. When in reality, one is describing an historical anecdote, the other is describing a constant civil position. So civil rights, what they were saying was that black people's civil rights were not being honored. That's what they were saying. Everybody's got civil rights, but black people's civil rights are not being honored. Okay, this is a movement to honor the civil rights of black people. Well, then they said, okay, we're going to pass some laws here, and trust us, this will trickle down to you. Trust us, this will help. Oh, we're going to desegregate the schools. And the same folk who passed these laws with this innocuous language that at the beginning, because the demographics of the nation were different, you assumed they were going to do great and wonderful things. Here's the problem. Black people, name a single damn civil rights law that dramatically changed black people's condition in this country. Name one civil rights law that dramatically, if it was focused on us, even from back then in 65 forward, name one that dramatically changed specifically our condition. Tell me the law that we desegregated the schools so black test scores went dramatically up, right? Actually, they went dramatically down. Handing the black children over to white teachers did what? Now, do you know what the black schools really needed? All the black schools needed is the same damn thing we're talking about now. No, you keep your white schools over there. You keep your forced busing. You drop them resources over here. As a matter of fact, we need to be in charge of our own printing presses. We will print our own history books. Because you imagine a history book written by Dr. Claude Anderson, Chancellor Williams, Dr. John Henry Clark, Joseph Ben Yakanan, Dr. Welsing. Could you imagine a history book made by them? That's the history curriculum being given to your black children. Yeah, we don't need your integrated schools. You just drop the resources. Like you're doing with everybody else. Jewish people don't care about public schools because they got their own. Now, this is not as big of a thing in the South. But for those of you who live in the Northeast, anywhere north of Virginia, Philadelphia, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, every Jewish synagogue has a school attached to it. Now, that's a bit of more of a novel thing in the southern United States, but for my people who live up in that New York, New Jersey area, the New England states, Pennsylvania, every Jewish synagogue got a school on it. They've never worried about that.
Right.
So understand, the first times that I left Louisiana and went to those states, I was like, I'll be damned. Every synagogue has a school and a playground on it. I'm like, well, no wonder they're not with us now they'll fight over colleges, but they're not fighting over the grade schools. Well, yeah, they take care of that themselves. So you see, if we were, how could they do that? Well, I'll be damned. They were given reparations after World War II.
Right. Japanese.
Mic drop.
Everybody else.
Well, Jason, how in the world could they do that? Well, I'll be damned. They made a priority of giving them. They gave me the priority of giving them reparations after World War II. Folks who are given resources, they take those resources. If they're not scrapping for resources, then you'll be amazed at some of the things they'll set up. And then all of a sudden, they have a much more cohesive community. Black people are deprived of resources and being told, you need to go stand in line at a white facility and let's see what we can give to you. I'll let you have the last word.
I just want to compliment you on your command of English and your vocabulary, you and Black Truth. It's amazing.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. I feel like Chris Rock. How am I supposed to speak? Well, yes, bosses. Caller from area code 919. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is Sydney from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Sydney from Raleigh, and how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, I just like to say that when I heard your broadcast on old niggas, I knew that I would have to call in at some point when you did it again. Both my parents, they've been married for about 50 years. They were born in 1949. Basically, when I graduated high school at 18, my mom told me if I ate dinner at her house after turning 18, that I had to pay for it. Couldn't wait till I turned 18. They didn't help me find a college, basically did that on my own. Fast forward, I have an older sister. It's just me and her. They basically baby my older sister because I guess she does whatever they say. I'm a professional. I'm a nurse. I have a 5-year-old. And my parents have 2 houses. They have one that they rent out, and they have one that they live in. And when I'm 40 now, and when I talk to my parents about the future or, me and my daughter moving in that house and me taking it over so I can own it, they laugh in my face. And they just look at me. They don't talk to me about it. My dad also has a lot of land in his name. My parents are getting older. If I bring that up and try to talk about, is there anything I need to know about the land, anything like that, my dad doesn't tell me anything. So I just wanted to say that you are right about those old niggas because they don't give a damn. They act like they don't give a damn about me.
Well, let me find out something here. How much older than you is your mother?
My parents are both 72.
Okay. What's the age difference, man?
So she was about 34 when she had me, or 35.
Okay. The reason why that is significant is because it gives you some idea of what their timeline or trajectory was. Just thinking about, usually when they're single, they think about getting back in them streets again. I'm curious about something. Your father, was this the only woman he's ever been with or had children with?
As far as I know, I actually asked them the other day, did I have a different dad? Because I wanted to know why they treated me so bad, but they didn't answer my question. They just kind of laughed it off. I've never had any other reason to think that he's not my dad. But yeah, him and my mom, my whole life, they acted holier than thou. My dad is the right-hand man to the pastor. My dad is the oldest of 10 kids. He grew up on a farm. Both my parents are from the country. So like growing up in the church, they always told me to go by the Bible, listen to wholesome music, don't have sex until I get married. But now that, now older, we're all getting older and things, they don't act like they give a damn. My daughter is their only grandchild. They act like they don't give a damn about her future. Or my future.
Let me find out here, have you been married? Because I hear about a daughter, I don't hear about a husband.
No, I've never been married.
Okay, sounds like we went against some things there. What I will say is the father is intriguing to me because usually what happens is it's a single mother who starts saying things like, I can't wait till you're 18 to get them out the house so she can get back out here in the streets and get rolled on. That's usually where that happens. Now, to a woman who is married, what I would be thinking is that it's the man who is putting pressure on that to happen because he don't really care about this little bastard anyway like that. And usually the woman's trying to do that because she figures if she can get him by herself, then maybe we can hold this thing together. So like I said, usually that's the kind of thing that I would expect to see, but it's certainly worth looking into. You might want to get a DNA test done on that. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 909. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Yusuke Barker in Rialto, California.
Okay, your phone's really muddled. I'll give you a chance here. If you're on speakerphone or earphones, people take your phones off speakerphone or earphone. If you're calling like that again, folks, I'm going to have to drop the call. We got a lot of people waiting. I'll give you one more try. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Yusuke Barker from Rialto, California.
Okay, Yusuke from Rialto. What's on your mind?
Yeah, the older generation, what they look at politics like, and they deal with it by dissociation. Dissociation is a clinical term, and it's a defense mechanism, and it's you deal with it by having stress. If you have a stressor, then you constantly go into dissociation when dealing with your issues or any kind of stressor. And that's what they do with white supremacy. And what they do, it really, it's just crazy. It's a defense mechanism that it just really affects the children, and they don't care about the children. You know, my parents, you know, they had 2 houses that they sold. One in Compton, the next one in West Covina. This one in Rialto, it's about like 700,000. It's worth like 700,000. And they're like, why should we sell it? Why should we give it to y'all, the kids? I got 2 siblings, and they're telling me like, I'm 43 right now, and it's like, man, it's just crazy. But
well, I want y'all to remember that kind of stuff there, because like I say, definitely people who are not thinking about legacy are dangerous. People who don't think about legacy are dangerous. They're not just annoying. They're dangerous, because people without resources cannot defend themselves. And if they're populating us with a bunch of folk who can't defend themselves, they're the problem. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I have a person on the line here. I cannot see your number, so I don't know if you're calling from either a blocked number or out of country, but if your call drops here, it's because I cannot see what your number is. So get that taken care of. Let me get caller from area code 307. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, Jason? This is Al from Dallas.
Al from Dallas. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Honestly, they don't, and it's sad. I just had this conversation yesterday with my mother, and it was disheartening to hear and she tried to hide the contempt she had for the younger generation. When we had this conversation, she talked about feelings and what they had to go through back then, and I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you ask for tangibles? Why wasn't the demand for economics? Because had you had economics, we wouldn't grew up the way we grew up. And then she reverted back to symbolism and how she felt. So I then posed a question. I said, what about your grandchildren? Wouldn't you want your grandchildren to have a better life, better way of upbringing than you had? And she sat there and she goes, well, and when she said, well, I just said, stop, Mom. Just stop. Like, don't even speak. Like, just end the conversation, because obviously you have no regard for the people behind you. You know, and this is the first time I ever talked to my mother in this fashion, but I called her selfish. I said, you're selfish, and, I appreciate you and your honesty. But as young folks, we just got to charge them to the game, and we got to do better going forward.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 240. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good night, Jason. My name is Bishop. I am from Trinidad and Tobago by way of Nices, South Carolina.
Okay, and what's that name again?
Dwayne Bishop.
All right, Dwayne. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, growing up in Trinidad, I'll tell you this. I grew up hearing the term party politics, and literally party politics, where politicians, to get your vote, they would throw a party. And in my house, once I was of age to vote, I was told that I needed to vote for PNM. Back then, I'm an 80s baby, so back then the political parties was PNM, UNC, and NAR. So it was just all emotional, nothing tangible. The roads were always bad, the crime was always high, inflation was always an issue. Never really got anything. It was only until, and I called before, it was only recently once I tapped into your channel, Professor Black Truth's channel, and started to really pay attention to what's really going on out here, I decided to get my house in order. Thanks to Dr. Cresswell's really follow all of that I was able to kind of get my ducks in a row and focus on the things that really matter. So to answer the question, which this is nothing. They don't really care about us. I mean, I even spoke to my mom, and my mom, in a nutshell, she never really planned for my arrival. I even asked her a question, what is her thoughts on me becoming a good man? And she couldn't even answer that, because at the end of the day, she basically grew up in that era where she didn't really care about having good men in her life. And so just hearing me speaking about being a good man is something unheard of. So
that's a very interesting take on that, because I was watching that that Vice piece on YouTube about Moises and Moses Jovenel in Haiti, and they were showing him. He was out there. They were having carnival or whatever. So on one side of the damn nation is havoc, chaos, upheaval, shooting. He's downtown with the folks partying in the streets and whatnot and talking about it ain't no big deal. A couple months later, he's going to be gunned down. So the video is very ominous because, by the way, this fellow will be dead in just a couple months. And you're correct. When we talk about things like carnival and stuff like that in the Caribbean, I want to talk about the Caribbean for a moment, because I want to talk about old black folks, by the way. When you started having the immigrants really come over heavy after the 60s and things, you got to ask yourselves, because we here, as the descendants of slaves and aboriginals in America, for the black folk who've been here, we take a look at that and it's like, okay, things over there should be popping off for real. You've got areas over there that are owned, owned wholly by cruise lines and whatnot. Norwegian and Carnival and stuff. They own their own damn ports over there. Huge tracts of land. And in those areas there, it's not like us where we're just 13% of the damn population. It's not like that. So when you've got an area like that, this is one of the most beautiful areas on the planet. These are some of the most beautiful areas on the planet. And yet, take a look at what the children have been given. When you talk about this stuff here in thought culture and things, it's not harmless. That's what I'm saying. I said all that to say, by the way, these old niggas, including from over there, it's not harmless. It is not harmless to crank out the bastard kids, to have no plan, to sit up here and be floating from one dude to another, to have no agenda, to be partying in the streets when you live in a damn Oldsmobile. That's not harmless. That's dangerous. That is absolutely dangerous because, for example, I got to tell it, everybody knows when you go to Jamaica, you basically can go from the airport to the resort. Do not go outside the resort. And that's basically it. That's basically it. It's not that everybody who's been to Jamaica knows that. And pretty much for most of the rest of the Caribbean, including Haiti, Dominican Republic, there's only a few places you can go, and then the whole rest of the place is pretty much off limits, or at least you're taking risks if you do. It's just going to be varying levels of risk if you do. But why is that? That is because for generations now, the children don't have anything. But what's the real reason the children don't have anything? Let's be very, very clear. You can say whatever you want to about Cuba. Cuba doesn't have the same issue. You know why? Like it or not, Gloria Estefan, like it or not, when Fidel Castro came to power, his thoughts were about the legacy, the next generation. Because he knew if the next generation becomes heretical, if the next generation gives in to Western propaganda, they're going to come after him. So it was important for him, for the next generation, to understand the value of what they were doing. It was important to him that they understood the value of what was being passed on. You don't have that in the Caribbean, except with the white folk running things. You don't have that. So what I'm saying is it's generational in that regard. It's generational to not value what you have. So when a young man like you is asking about that, you got to understand, dude, when they hear you saying that kind of stuff to them, brother, you just sprouted horns out of your head. When y'all come and talk to them, you just sprouted horns. You got long ass teeth. You got a great big ass long curled up tail. When you all do things like that, it's like the Michael Jackson werewolf transformation scene from Thriller. That's what happens to them when all y'all young folk do things like that. And that is why at this critical juncture, you got those of us right now, when you hear, folk talking about foundational Black Americans and descendants of slaves and making that distinction, it isn't because we're trying to beat nobody down. It is because it's time for everybody to get on code. It is time for everybody to understand that. I'm not saying anything about the old folk in the Caribbean that I wouldn't say about the old niggas over here. I'm not saying anything about these niggas that I wouldn't say about them niggas. Nothing at all. And more than that, y'all really need to be on code with that because that's your future there. I'm not from the Caribbean. It doesn't matter what I think of, I'm not going to name all the places. Folks start doing that kind of stuff. But it doesn't matter what I think about Jamaica and the Virgin Islands and all. It doesn't, it matters, but it doesn't really change things there because I don't own anything. I don't have any family there. I don't have anybody who has a claim to the land. But guess what? You do. Yeah. You do. And if they don't consider it to be important to make sure you secure that, your ability to survive is going to be tied to that. Or whether or not you will. And this idea that a few folks are going to make it and everybody else is going to sit up here and starve and the old niggas are sitting up here giving you a bunch of damn jive talk. Well, you see, that's on, it's kind of rough over here. Why you ask them things? That's very troublesome. No, we need to ask some troublesome damn questions. You got children, you got grandchildren to be set up here and told you ain't got no resources or nothing. Look, the bottom line is, if y'all want to know why it is the young folk over there in the Caribbean are bopping old niggas over the head and taking what they got, is because you didn't leave them nothing. There, I said it.
Exactly.
If you want to know how it is that a Chris Koch and the rest of them dudes can rise up the way they did, it's because they're going to get the young fellas together and say, look, these old niggas is sitting on everything. If it's going to be hell, we going to be running it. If it's going to be hell, if we're going to be in hell, we're going to be running this damn thing. I'm not going to be sitting in hell and this old nigga done mess things up for me and he's sitting over here telling me what to do. Oh, no. Look here. Okay, grandma, all you got is some house slippers and a TV. Take them slippers off, throw that TV here in the back of the truck, we gone. Don't give me no lip. You can get it just like the police can get it. You can get it too. I'm just saying, you can't sit up here and deprive the children and the grandchildren and think there's not going to be repercussions for that, man. You can't sit up here and do that. You can't sit up here and sell your daughters. Let's be very, very clear. The Caribbean is big time. Oh, hell, did I go off on a rant? You damn sure right. The Caribbean is big time and infamous for selling your damn daughters into prostitution. I'm talking about young girls, adolescents, 12 years old. If you think that the old niggas not passing on anything, if you think the old niggas not holding on to property and not fighting to make sure it's valuable, if you think that's a victimless crime, ask Nicki Minaj and Rihanna and the rest of them damn chicks who are over-sexualized out their asses by the time they set foot here. Even if they're second generation, who the hell do you think taught them? They ain't been given nothing. Okay, if you're a girl, see if you can get pregnant by some no good nick, or see if there's a white man who gets off the damn cruise ship. Okay, you're 13, tell him you're 18, or at least 17. Better yet, tell him you're 15. He'd like that better. And I'm just saying, it sounds harmless until you realize this is reality. That ain't no damn joke, man. That ain't no damn joke. So super heavy. The cats in the Caribbean need to be super heavy about that. I'm just letting y'all know right now, respect those who respect you. If these old folk ain't done nothing for you, that's it. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, Jason, you spoke nothing but truth there. That is why at the end of the day, I pull myself all the way back. I pull myself square, as we like to say back home. I don't really deal with my my family like that because all of them way off code. So all of the people that are listening right now, especially the immigrants, get on code. Stop all that scumbag shit. Stop having kids out of wedlock. Stop having a bunch of kids. My father had 7 kids. He didn't mind none of we. You know what I mean? Do what it is you're supposed to do, or exercise the Second Amendment right. Thanks to you are doing that. If you could get your hand on something tangible here, some resources, or go back home, focus on that. I'm in the midst of doing both because I can't sit idly by and watch what is going on back home. Every chance I get, I talk, I speak truth to power, I speak to people, I tell them, yo, we need to stop this, we need to get a handle on all of this, because at the end of the day, there's only so many criminals that are back home. If we could rise up and we could bear arms and we could do what it is we need to do, I mean, again, at the end of the day, I only heard about Kwame Ture through you. They didn't teach us back home that. So, be one all the way. Love
Remember one thing. Countrymen shooting at each other is a civil war. Citizens shooting at each other is a civil war. Citizens shooting at a corrupt government is a revolution. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get a caller from area code 404. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, Jason? It's B-Ruff from Atlanta.
Okay, B-Ruff from Atlanta. What's on your mind?
Man, I got an answer for your question, but based on the last call and a few other callers, man, I hope you do a show about legacy and how important it is, because I for sure got some fire on that. But to answer your question, guilt tripping. That's what they're doing. They guilt trip you in voting Democrat, and they want to keep doing it. And the guilt trip is also with the voting, because they'll say, you spend on our ancestors. Well, I'm pretty sure my ancestors didn't die for the right to vote, so we could choose abortion or gay marriage. See what I'm saying? Guilt tripping. They playing the con game, and this ain't no joke, man. That's why I protest votes. I ain't hiring none of them lying motherfuckers. Be one. God first.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 972. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, this is Black Wall Street out of Dallas by the way of Shreveport, Louisiana.
Black Wall Street out of Dallas by way of my hometown. What's on your mind, brother? How do the old people think about politics to you?
It is a pure case of benign neglect. And really, if they could, to every unconscious individual, they would just pass it on, and they would indoctrinate every generation thereafter, because all they're about is commitment and dedication to the Democratic Party. Be one.
Black first, thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 213. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Devon out of Los Angeles.
Devon out of Los Angeles. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, actually, like you put my mom onto some games, so I mean, she's kind of here and there. You know, she's like, well, anything's better than Trump, but she didn't vote. You know, you convinced her and everything. And I have like a side note. I actually met Jennifer, whatever her name was, actually at a party when I was like a teenager. I volunteer chaperone. She was actually at Ellie Willis's party, and she like wrote something for The Color Purple. Well, you know, that makes sense. You know, that's what she does. You know, she's a liberal. So, and, you know, that's all I have to say, you know.
You know, here's an interesting question I think you all should ask people when somebody says, is anything's better than Trump? And that's very interesting. So, would you say that Clarence Thomas is better than Trump? Would you say David Duke is better than Trump? So next time somebody gives you all the better than Trump thing, tell them, start throwing out a couple of those kind of names like that and see if anybody is still better than Trump, by the way. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 646. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jason, it's Kirk calling from Manhattan.
Kirk from Manhattan. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, I'll tell you a really quick story about my dad. He's from the Caribbean. I challenged him about his vote for Barack Obama, asking him specifically what tangibles that he could point to that he gave the black community. And he had no answer and just said, you know, I just wanted to see a black president before I die. So That's the way that generation looks at politics. Meaningless symbolism. A lot of them are really defeated, and they get all their talking points. 100% of their talking points are from either CNN or MSNBC. Hear it from my dad, hear it from my aunt and uncles, hear it from my godparents. That's that generation. You just have to, charge them to the game when it comes to politics, because you can't have any type of intelligent conversation when it comes to tangible, specifically to black people. E1.
Black First, thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 720. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is James from Denver, Colorado. I just want to congratulate you. You know what I mean? Like, you do a really good job. I really appreciate you enlightening the younger generation, because I'm from the younger generation. And honestly, I've kind of asked myself this question since I was a kid. Like, the moment I could really think for myself. I remember when I was in 7th grade and I took this test that asked if you were Republican or Democrat, and it said I was a moderate Republican. And when I brought it back home to my mom, she literally said, word for word, "This is a Democrat house. We don't side with Republicans." And it really baffled me, because she raised me very conservative. You know what I mean? Like, but see, people don't understand conservatism. It stretches between Democrat and Republican.
No.
So
no. I want you to understand properly what is happening there. Okay, understand properly, because what you're experiencing there, what LBJ and the Democratic strategists did in the 60s, Lee Atwater and Karl Rove would start perfecting in the 80s and 90s. You see this in places like Texas and Florida and Georgia. You have individuals. Okay, slow down. Okay, brake pedal. You see this in these places, so recognize what you're seeing. Individuals who think like Democrats but vote like Republicans. That's what you see in places like Texas, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas. Inversely, with black folk, you have people who think like conservatives or typical political conservatives, and yet vote with the supposedly liberal party. You think about it in those regards. Karl Rove was a master of being able to set that up in places like Texas. Get people who think like Democrats but vote Republican. You got black folk who think conservatively and vote like liberals. So this is a part of a political strategy. Well, how do you pull this off? How do you get somebody who they think one way but they vote another way? You find a singular issue, or you find one thing with which you're able to identify with them better than these other folk do. And where old people are concerned, the optics that the Democrats are somehow more welcoming of black people than Republicans, those optics outweigh any actual actions. The optics. Let's be very, very clear. Because what you're asking them is, okay, tell me the results. Give me the actual tangible actions. Crickets. What she will tell you is what the same thing they've been saying now for 50 years. Well, take a look at Obama. Symbolic. Take a look at Ketanji Brown Jackson. Symbolic. You're not telling it. I asked you what did they do, and you're pointing to a person's face. Okay, tell me what the face did. And then you realize what's happening there. But there's also an extra dimension with black people. This is the gamification of politics. I talked about this before, turning politics into a spectator sport. So when she's talking about this is a Democrat house, she might as well have said this is a Steeler house or a Cowboys house or a 49ers house, because you're getting just as much benefit. So she's treating this like a game. Now, here's the problem. She can afford to treat it like a game, because she's not actually expecting to get anything. You, on the other hand, are saying, wait a minute, there's something I'm trying to get. This isn't a game to me. I'm not entertained. There's something I want to get. So there's where you and she come into conflict, because her interests are being, quote, represented. She's living vicariously. When somebody tells you vote for Obama, I want to see a black man in the White House. Oh, you're living vicariously. I don't want to live vicariously. I want to go there myself. I don't want to sit here and cheer for somebody else. I want to go there myself. So if this is a fight between those who are satisfied living vicariously and those who want to experience it on their own. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, sir. And to that point of how they vote, honestly, one of the callers hit on it, is that they're really, the black men from old are very simpish. Like, I can just see it, like, even when I'm at my job and they come in and I just look at them, just like, it's like they're a zombie walking behind this liberal Democrat, like, oh, this is a Democrat house. That is like my mom said. And I really do think that they're sick and deprived. Like, they're just a bunch of weirdos. Like, they vote. They don't want to make the mammy black woman mad. So they're like, I got to vote for old lady.
Let me find. Does your mother go to church?
No.
Okay. Is she a soror? Is she a soror?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Has she been to college? Is she a member of a sorority? Any civic organization,
No.
something like that?
No.
Is she on the county?
She's honestly, she's one of those, like, black women that's like, all of a sudden they're trying to be all up in the mix and be all super political, but they're just a bunch of tired ass fucking people. They're just all words and not shit. Like, exactly
has she ever been married? Well, in the interest of time, has she ever been married?
Yes, my father. Yes, they were. My father. They were married for, I believe, about 10, 15 years. And then they divorced.
Why?
He was in the military, and
they got divorced. Why?
Honestly, I really do think.
Oh, that's not good.
He was a hothead. He was in the military. He's a hothead, and she's just very. Honestly, I think she's very. She's a modern black woman.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
brother. Here's the problem.
He's not for the BS.
Well, I got a feeling your mama was on the county at some point. I got the feeling she was on the county at some point. That attitude and everything is like, okay, when you start giving that hand that feeds you talk of deference and subservience, if she's a disciplinary problem, she wants to reject male authority, and she just wants to live all kinds of wild and wackiness. Yeah, she's looking for white. What she's really saying is, this is the house of white daddy is what we're looking for. So whoever caters to them most, that's what they're looking for.
And see, you just hit on something, because let me tell you something. So, and when I say, like, they're deprived and sick, is that I think that they really do. It's like an old football player looking at young football players, and they're like, oh, they got the visors, they got the gloves, they got all these new cleats, shiny this, fitted jerseys. That's exactly how the older generation looks at the younger generation. They're looking at us like, well, why are y'all growing up with all this technology, all this information, all these resources around you, and we don't get that? So they're willing to take it to the grave and not, give their vote or their political power to the next generation. They're just they love white people so much. They're so obsessed with white people, but they'll never admit it. But
here's the real thing. They had something. The older black folk had something more powerful than the internet. By the way, thank you very much for giving us a call. By the way, let me tell y'all something. These old niggas had something far more powerful than the internet. Yeah, this is really going to roast a lot of y'all's backsides, but by the way, they had something more powerful than the internet. You know what they had? They had $1 that was worth 20 times the one that you have now. They have $1 with a buying power that was anywhere from 10 to 20 times the one that you have now. They could feed a family on a salary of $10,000 a year. They could buy a house for 1 year's salary. Gentrification wasn't a thing. I want you to think that over for a moment. Yeah, it's one thing to have the internet and all that access and whatnot, but you know what's really great? What's really great is to have $1 that can buy a house for $10,000 as opposed to a dollar that needs to buy a house for $368,000 and a car for $45,000 or rent for $1,600 or $2,000 a month and you're not even in Manhattan. You know, that's pretty damn powerful too, you know. How many of you, what would y'all give today to be able to buy a brand new, just be able to buy a brand new BMW 3 Series for $5,000? Brand new. Or if you had the ability to feed a whole damn family on $10,000, $15,000 a year. While they're sitting up here trying to tell you, well, you got the ability to look up a job online and we're not doing. Really, nigga? Calling from area code 601. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Oh, yeah, this is Brian Terray from Jackson, Mississippi.
Brian from
when
Jackson,
it comes
Mississippi,
to
what's
the
on your,
old generation.
How do the old black people think about politics to you?
They think however the Democratic politicians tell them to think. And that is, they don't think. My people, they like kids. As a matter of fact, all of them, they like kids when it comes to politics. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Be one.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Very simplistic, but you got to understand they're not voting for anything. They're voting as a ritual. They're voting to be acknowledged. They're voting for fun. They're voting for the status quo. That is the real difference between the old black folks and the current generation. We're voting to change things if we do vote. They're voting to keep things just the way they are now. They're not voting to change anything. They're voting just to keep things exactly the way it is now. Caller from area code 862. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, brother? This is Jonathan Edwards calling from Asheboro, North Carolina.
Jonathan from Asheboro. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, you said earlier that, they see politics as a gamification. I think that they think of it as a gang. They got jumped in as children under the big OG who gave them the illusion that they were going to get something. And now they hold that line religiously just like gang members do. It's blue versus red. And it doesn't matter what it is. We're going to fight this fight because this is our gang. Just like the young gentleman that just called in earlier said, this is a Democrat household.
Very good. Well, what did the Democrats You're very good about that. It's like the Bloods and the Crips. We don't even know why we beefing anymore. The niggas who originally started it are all dead.
No, we don't know.
We don't even know why we beefing. We're doing it. They started it back then, and we're not even sure if they ever knew why they started it. All we know is the beef is on.
And it's going to stay on. It's just like you just said about having the buying power of 20 times the dollar that we have now. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm 52 years old. Okay, so I was able to watch my uncles and my aunts and my mother and my father and all these guys go out and buy cars for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, brand new stuff. My uncle had a 1970 Chevelle that he got for like $7,000. Ended up selling it for like $70,000. Built a house with that car. So how would you like to be able to buy something now and have it go up 100 times in value and then sell it and build a house with it? They were perfectly timed coming out of Jim Crow segregation at a time where economics was going up, economy was going up, America was going up. And they were allowed to put silk sheets on a slave mattress and be comfortable in the slave plantation. They could go to General Motors and Ford and Chrysler and all these places and get jobs for $15, $20 an hour, which would feed an entire family.
Back when getting paid $15 an hour was real money. They was getting paid $15 an hour back when that was real money, by the way.
Right. They were able to buy new cars, build new houses, send their kids to whatever school they wanted to. but they didn't build anything that was going to be tangible to pass down. And let's not forget that that's the first bastard baby mama generation, the good old baby boomers. They started this. They kicked this whole baby mama stuff off.
I mean, they had access, they had cars, they had college, by the way, back when college was still reasonably priced. They had all these advantages. Young black folk today should be living high on the hog. Yes, white supremacy is very real. Yes, it is a very real obstacle. Yes, it engineers all this. At the same time, we don't do ourselves any favors without realizing that previous generation did a lot of collaborating. Thank you very much for giving us a call, and they still do today. Let me get caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Saul Wilsamore calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, sir, it sounds like you are walking through a tornado. Should you call us back later?
Yeah, I'm in a tornado right now. I just want to comment on the topic today.
Brother, he is certainly calling from the Windy City. It's living up to its name today. I hope he survives this. Caller from area code 202. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Sister Sean, Washington, D.C.
Okay, what's the name again?
Sister Sean, Washington, D.C.
Okay, Sister Sean in Washington, D.C. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, I have a kind of like a statement. You know how you say old niggas? I'd like you to add, or I have added, you got some old mammies as well. So my testimony here is I am fortunate enough to have two grandmothers, one 92 and the other one 95 on both sides of my family. My grandmother tried to pull me into this Supreme Court, White House lawn, theatrics. And, she was very, very excited. And I talked to her about that new Supreme Court justice nominee and how she went against black people. And I refused to listen to it. And, she just got, looked at me and, got all upset. So, they are like indoctrinated. So from the political standpoint, it's literally an indoctrination that you have to kind of break down and work with. Some of it is workable and some of it isn't. But it's so bad to the point, it's almost like trauma. It's trauma and it's damages. It's almost like they're damaged.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to call it. It's pretty much. It runs very much akin to brainwashing, is what it does, because it takes no regard whatsoever for physical facts, which is, that's contagion, that's cult-like, is cognitive dissonance. They're more, which tells you that their goal, their agenda, their priority isn't actually anything in the real world, which should be even scarier for young black folks. They're telling y'all, they're literally telling their children, well, it doesn't matter what happens here. You're going to get your pie in the sky and the heaven in the hereafter. It's like, wait a minute, wasn't that what the white folk was telling y'all? Yeah, that's exactly what they're telling you now. I don't have to do anything for you. You'll get your pie in the sky and the heaven in the hereafter. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 817. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from 817 has been abducted. Caller from area code 610. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Jason. How's it going? It's Carlos from Pennsylvania.
Carlos from where at in Pennsylvania?
Reading, PA.
Okay, and how do the old black people think about politics to you?
Well, Jason, I've been listening all evening. We can, pick this out piece by piece and, always have our disagreements. But what is your 5 cents on, how we can fix this or sort of put it together a little bit better? What do you think?
Okay, I have an entire archive of videos. You might want to avail yourself to that. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Caller from area code 512. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Mr. Black, this is Eric, man, in Dallas, Texas, man.
Okay, Eric in Dallas. And how do the old black folk think about politics to you?
Man, I just wanted to point out the contradiction. You know, they basically taught when I was growing up. I'm 44, so when I was growing up, they taught all of the be a man or a woman of your word, and you know, look at karma, and you know what you say you're gonna do it, and prove it, this and that. But when it came to politics, they didn't hold anybody else accountable, like the Democrats. So it's like one thing I noticed that they all believed, and this is before social media and internet and all that kind of crap, but they believed every single thing that was printed. So if it was printed in the paper or whatever the case may be, that's exactly what they believe. That's why the word white supremacy is becoming so okay now. I can specifically remember my dad back in the day when I would mention the word white supremacy, it's like he would melt. Oh my God, Lord, don't say that. Oh Lord. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, it still don't feel good to him, but it's like, well, you know, son, that's negative. You know, it's the word white supremacy and everything involved with it is negative. You know, and I'm like, it's not negative, man. Me studying white supremacy actually gave me the power to create, and that's real talk.
Well, you can't fix a problem if you won't face a problem. So when you got Negroes sitting out here telling you they're forbidden words, what he's telling you is there's some other agenda that he's pursuing and adhering to, but not actually one rooted in the real world. So empowering yourself, remember, empowering yourself, it comes down to your language also. If I can tell you what you can and can't say, then I'm automatically influencing what you are or are not thinking. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 510. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Mr. Black. This is Black Voltron calling out of Oakland, California.
Black Voltron out of Oakland. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
To me, they thought about it like the Jim Jones quote. They just follow along and do what, you know, these Democratic politicians say to do and drink the Kool-Aid. Throughout my life, you know, my parents has always said to, you know, vote Democratic blue is good, Republican red is bad. That's it. Meanwhile, as far as economics, they didn't teach us, me and my sisters, about anything. So when it comes time to, like you just eloquently stated, that, you know, they had the power of 10 to 20 times as powerful dollar back in the day. I got to disagree with that. I'd say it's more like 100 times, because the house that I grew up in East Oakland, they bought that for $35,000. I just looked at that this morning on Trulia.
Oh, let me say this. When I use that figure, I'm only going back to the 70s. If you go back before the 70s, it's mind blowing at that point. It becomes mind blowing.
Yeah. But they bought this house in 1973, Jason, and I looked at this price. Look at the price. You know, I've been looking at it throughout the last 20 years. It's gone up. Now it's at 1.6 million. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to buy my house that I grew up in. I'm a Generation X too, and you know, these people failed us. I'm talking about my parents. All right. My dad had made like maybe like $1 million, $2 million from like 1984 to 1987. Actually, I take that back. Actually, it's more like $3 million on various contracts through the UC system. My mom, you know, she had a house basically worth, you know, $300,000, $400,000 from when they bought it at $35,000. They lost the house, and I remember my parents had all the fly clothes, all the fly shoes. They had a clean BMW and stuff, and, you know, a couple additional vehicles. I remember my mom's closet was full of Ferragamo shoes. I thought it was the Ferragamo store. Coach bags back in the day before they was fashionable. All that Gucci shit, Louis Vuitton this. I mean, I remember all that stuff from the 70s, well, from the 80s and 90s. And as far as me and my sister, left us with nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, you know, what do these old niggas, what have they done for us politically? Absolutely nothing, just like they've done nothing for us economically. They were selfish, and they left us with absolutely nothing. So now Generation X, Y, and Z, we are reinventing the wheel all over again and starting from scratch. So, fuck these old niggas. I'm laying my plane on that. Be one to the fullest.
Black First, brother, thank you very much for giving us a phone call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 469. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Big Stomp from Dallas, Texas.
Big Stomp from Dallas. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, you know, I think they done got lost in the sauce, Jason. I want to thank you because what you brought to Black America is intelligence when it comes to this politician game. They didn't have no intelligence. It was basically they were being railroaded, ramrodded, hoodwinked, bamboozled, and they wasn't. Basically, they were just trying to stay out of the lynch mob. I think. I don't know. That's the mentality I got. It's just full of fear. You know, they called me a troublemaker earlier because I did some things that they didn't consider right or politically correct. I didn't give a damn. But I came from a lineage of fighters and troublemakers. You know, I just came from a troublemaker, the squad. But anyway, the old folks did not have any intelligence in looking at this thing. Some of us did. They got shot and killed. You know, Martin Luther King, he was looking at it right. Malcolm X, and so forth and so on. These guys, our leaders. But the code, once we get on code, we're getting on code. And I thank you for that too, because you bring that. That's more intelligence, and that's bringing us together. And the code is going to make us stronger and more powerful, and make us get more tangibles and resources. And we're not afraid of power, wealth, and influence. We know those things, the direction we should be going, and that's what's helping us.
Well, definitely
folks,
having an agenda is important. The old folk there, especially like I say, in places like Dallas and whatnot. I remember I used to live there 3 decades ago, and like I say, it's you saw it then, man. You saw it then. I'm not originally from Texas. We saw it then when Ron Kirk was mayor. It was very clear that Dallas was taking off then. I mean, Dallas was already good, but when Ron Kirk was mayor, it was taking off then. And not having foresight about these things, you're getting the final receipts now about whether or not these old folk were really actually about something. Because when you see in Texas now, the white folk vote for something. Hell, the Latinos are voting for something. The idea that you're supposed to just show up and vote or just show up and be out here and there is no agenda. I would suggest to you all that people's politics reflect their personalities. And a person who doesn't vote for anything tangible, when you take a look at their personal lives with their children, legacy, and everything else, you're going to see there's nothing tangible there either, by the way. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a call from area code 901. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Janelle from Memphis.
Janelle from Memphis. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
To me, it looks like they think about politics in a way that they don't, instead of trusting their children, you know, and our ideas and that sort of thing, they more trust the Democratic Party because that's who they seemingly got something from when they were younger. They were able to get good government jobs and they were able to get education and they were able to, you know, sustain their families and sort of thing. But they haven't really prepared us for the world that we entered. So they don't trust us with these sorts of things. They don't trust our ideas about these things. They trust the Democratic Party, who seemingly gave them something.
Symbolic. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about here tonight. How do the old black folks think about politics? They are addicted. They are absolutely enamored. They are obsessed with the first Negro. They are still stuck on that same repeating loop. The first Negro. That is still a prestigious position, a prestigious title to them to this day. That's why these political parties know they can keep dangling that carrot in front of them. Well, you know, if you vote for us, we gonna put another first Negro. And once you start to identify with them, because there are not enough first Negro positions left. So what they do now is they gamify it. So you already got a female who, when convenient, identifies as black as vice president. You've already had a Negro who, when convenient, identified as black as president. So you've run through those. So now you're throwing out all the also-ran prizes. Well, hey, what haven't we filled yet? Well, Supreme Court, we got Attorney General, we already got that one. Okay, so president, and vice president, and senator, and Attorney General. Ooh, Supreme Court, we ain't get that one yet. Ooh, we already got a black one. Okay, we can get a female. You could be the first black female on the Supreme Court, even if you deny being able to identify or define what a female is. This is how insane it's gotten. These old folk are still obsessed with this title of first Negro. Go into your families. I guarantee you, talk to your mamas or your grandmamas. They can run you down the litany. I guarantee you, anybody who was alive during World War II, during segregation, they are still sitting here talking about, as things got desegregated, they can remember chapter and verse of the first Negro at everything. First Negro on the city council, first Negro at the library, first Negro at the lunch counter, first Negro to work at, Montgomery Ward, first Negro to work at Firestone, first Negro to be a manager at McDonald's. They can remember all of that, and it still has prestige to them to this day. They're still chasing it. Now, we as the children, we are completely unenamored with that garbage, but they're still chasing that. That still has weight. That still has value to them. First Negro. That still has value to them. But then again, some of them were the first Negro, or at least told themselves they were the first Negro that evening in a white man's bed. So they've all got all kinds of skewed values. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 817. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Slang, Flint, Michigan.
Slang from Flint. And how do old black people think about politics?
Well, as far as that goes, like my mother, I was always raised Democratic. Democratic people, they always seem to be like the superheroes or some shit in my neighborhood, like looked up as in high-rise people or something like that. They was always just looked up in high esteem for some reason. And I never really knew about what was really going on until I started listening to the Black Authority, and I just never knew how deep the wormhole was with this shit. And it's like a lot of, like my mother, she was born in Starkville, Mississippi. My father from Shreveport, Louisiana. She moved up to Flint, Michigan, and she raised us there. And Flint, Michigan is racist as hell. Like I'm down here in Texas right now, in Fort Worth, and they let us kind of, coast by or whatever. They bother Mexicans if anything, but like Flint, Michigan, they'll fuck you up if anything. If like you driving without a damn driver's license, if you ain't got a driver's plate light on your shit, you know what I'm saying? And so like old people, they seem to be addicted to the Democrat life. If anything, like the way that I see it, like it's all
well,
Democrat.
They're certainly
like,
addicted to the
Democrats
acknowledgement
don't
of it. The Republicans chose a Southern strategy. The Democrats chose a Negro acknowledgement strategy, and both of them have a handshake agreement that their job is really to maintain the status quo. So one pretends to acknowledge you, the other one pretends to ignore you, and neither one of them actually proceed or produce anything for you. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 910. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Earl from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Earl from Fayetteville. Did you call in earlier, Earl?
No, I called yesterday, sir.
Okay. One call per weekend, sir. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area. If you've already called in this weekend, one call per weekend, people. Caller from area code 213. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Jai. I'm calling from North Dakota, by way of Los Angeles.
Okay. Where at North Dakota, sir?
Fargo.
Okay, Ja from Fargo. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Well, it's not too many words you can say, but you said it. It's physical. It's in plain sight. As long as we use their dollar like some suckers waiting for some soup, and we celebrate their white face on that Santa Claus and that white face on that dollar, as long as we keep doing that, that's the politic. It's a fucking game. And we need to have some fucking backbone. I'm talking about me, starting with me. We don't have no backbone, and we some hungry, we backstab each other for these people, and we do the white man's bidding.
Okay, so what exactly are you suggesting to remedy that then?
We cannot use their face as currency, and it just can't be. We can't do it.
So you're saying
it's in plain sight.
The answer is to put black people on the currency. Then we should put Harriet Tubman on there, and that would fix that.
No.
Okay, that sounds like
we just cannot value it.
Oh,
we can't value it.
We can't value the faces on the dollar, sir. This is getting confusing.
No, what they created that for them.
They created what for them?
In other words,
sir?
We need to resort to gold and jewels only as our currency.
So you're saying that black people should use gold and jewelry as a medium of exchange.
Well, that's what they're disguising their currency as.
Okay. Sir, by the way, anybody who subscribes to this, by the way, you all know exactly what I'm going to say. Check the value of gold starting in 1970, and then check the value of Berkshire Hathaway stock, Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon stock over the exact same length of time, and take a look at their values today. I think that'll pretty much get you up to speed and cleared up on that. Good little homework assignment for you, brother. All the gold and jewelry people, by the way. You want a good little homework assignment? By the way, compare the value of those four stocks I just named, and then the commensurate value of gold over the last 45 years. Yeah, that'll help clear it up for you quick. Caller from area code 337. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Jam out of Shreveport.
Jam out Shreveport. And how do old black people see the politics in your eyes?
Miseducated and mentally maladapted. That would be clearly the issue. If you listen to Kwame Ture and Amos Wilson and John Henry Clark, they were giving them all the information that they needed, but they weren't accepting it. But the main thing is that a lot of people, in my opinion, didn't even get it to them. You know, they never had it delivered to them, because you had to go and look for people like that and information like that back in the day, you know. And right now we have you and Tariq and Professor Black Truth and so many other people online that you can readily go listen to. And when you can listen to, and be honest with you, I'm not lying. I've been into Garvey and Malcolm X and, you know, people like that since the 1990s. And dude, y'all coming with some information that it was like, y'all took, you know, John Henry and what's his name? The brother Neely Fuller. Y'all taking the information and y'all re-delivering it. But the thing is, though, is that we never knew about these people. And these people have been around for decades. And like I said, the old folks are miseducated, mentally maladapted, because they were listening to what? To TV, to white media, to basically the whole shuck jobbing bullshit and dance. You know?
Well, they didn't appreciate it, brother. As a group, they didn't appreciate it. If black folk as a group appreciated, you know, Garvey and Malcolm and Martin, if they truly appreciated the way they claim they do today, those brothers wouldn't have to fight nearly as hard as they did. They didn't have that kind of support back then. It's only Negroes now that their names are lionized and venerated. Now they're claiming that they've won. Thank you very much for giving us a call here. I'm going to wrap things up here in a couple of more calls. Let me get caller from area code 323. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good evening, big brother Jason. This is brother Elijah calling out of Los Angeles, California.
Elijah out of Los Angeles. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
To answer your question, big brother, vote blue no matter who. All right, that's been a practice in my family ever since. I do have a question for you, big brother. When did this indoctrination with black people and the Democrats, I'm not saying all black people, just to clear that up, big brother. When did this indoctrination with a lot of these old niggas and the Democrats, when did this begin? Did this happen during the 60s or during the years of Roosevelt?
Well, I mean, it really kicked off really after Roosevelt. That's really when it kicks off.
Yes,
and it
sir.
just kind of goes up from there. Because, I mean, you were living in a system of, terrorism and whatnot, and a lot of simple decisions were made. But when you start, just understand, I mean, you had the prophets speaking to you since Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey. So it wasn't like the prophets weren't there. I mean, literally, everybody's seen the news clip where they're talking to Malcolm X, and then some Negro, when the newsman asked him, he's like, well, I don't really identify with all the old radical talk he doing. So like I say, it's always been a situation where black people as a group, you've had those who were not scared, and then you had those who went back to picking the cotton. And that's literally what we've been dealing with ever since. Those who are not afraid and those who are just going to go back to picking the cotton because they're comfortable. That's all it is to it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 717. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
How you doing, Jason? This is Will calling out of Philadelphia.
Will out of Philadelphia. And how do old black people think about politics to you?
Based off of what I've seen in my family, they don't want to talk about it. They're comfortable where they are. They get angry when you want to really get into the critical aspect of it. They just have this frustration about it. Like, I almost got kicked out of my aunt's house because I wanted to talk about it. And, it's almost like this comfortability where they are, you're just too woke. You need to calm down. It's not like that. All that kind of language. And, it's very, very irritating. And I look at these people growing up and I wanted to get advice and, get sharp in areas that I need to be sharp in. They don't have it. They're tired. They're exhausted. And, they're like you said, they're looking to die peacefully. And, that's just what I see from it. And it's very, very irritating. Can't even really talk about it. Because every time you talk about it, it's, you're just exaggerating. It's racism, but it ain't like that. It's just you. We just need to take a look in the mirror. Like, come on.
Just understand, politics really gives people a record of whether or not you had the right values or not. It really does. And what they hate is the children are coming back and saying words they never thought they would hear. Hey, we need to check your paperwork. Hey, Grandma, we need to check your paperwork. Hey, Mom, Auntie, Uncle Phil, Uncle Jim, I need to check your paperwork. And they understand the paperwork's coming back dirty. Let's be very, very clear. When a person knows, not if they suspect, not if they feel, not if they hope, when a person knows that they made the right decisions, they're not afraid of you checking up. They're not afraid of you questioning. I'm not afraid of you all questioning a damn thing that I have said from this microphone now for over a decade. I have open mic, so you can call me up. I'm not afraid to stand by any of it. Everything I've said, that's the great thing about the internet age is everything has been said here. You can go back and go check it and cross-reference it and find out, wait a minute, is this really his position? Has he been consistent? Absolutely. Is he solid on this? And you can come check that. A lot of y'all, though, you're related to people that ain't solid. They bet on the wrong horse. They were sitting around here like old Jennifer Lewis back in the 80s, back when she was young and could get away with that mess. And I guess she was worried that her dirty laundry was going to come out, so let me go ahead and out myself. But back then, when they thought they could get away with it, that's all they were doing. That's all they were doing back then when they thought they could get away with it. Now that everything's on the record and we live in a society, if there's been one good thing about the internet, it's that it's given people a mindset to preserve things. Even if it's not done on the internet, people now have a mindset of archiving things. So now you all are archiving. You're archiving discussions with your parents. You're archiving discussions with your siblings. You're archiving discussions with your spouses, with the school teachers. You're taking on a attitude and a practice of archiving things. And to a lot of folk, this is dangerous for them, because what this now has created is a cultural paperwork check. You see, there's a reason that they haven't been able, try as they might, to turn John Lewis into some modern-day martyring hero. They can't do it. They're trying forever. They pulled out the big guns. They brought in Ava DuVernay. It ain't catching no damn traction. Yeah, because the conversation has changed, just not the way they were hoping it would. We're living in the era of the paperwork.
They don't like the challenge. They don't like the challenge. It's like you're challenging them. And it's like, all I want you to do is become more critical.
No, you are challenging them. And by the way, that is good. Like I say, the reason why I have an open microphone here is because I want you all to actually learn, not just to believe things. I want you to know why you believe what you believe. It is not enough to just sit up here and say, well, I'm not happy with my lot in life, and I kind of have an inkling that my parents should have done more. Folks are going to say, you just freeloading, you just lazy. No, let's go ahead and compare this to the way it was supposed to happen. So when I explain to you about legacy, when I explain to you, go take a look at what they did, when I explain to you about your obligations as a person, when I explain to you about generational wealth, then all of a sudden you can't argue that. Now it's crystal clear. There's a reason why these churches talk about prosperity gospel. They don't talk about generational wealth. Your old Creflo Dollar doesn't talk about that. Because if they did, you're going to have to point the finger at a lot of your parishioners and start asking some hard questions that they will not be able to answer. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I try to teach you all to ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. Don't be afraid to ask those questions here. Elijah calls in every week asking those things. Don't be afraid to ask those questions and demand answers that make sense. And then you go back and check them and cross-reference it and test it and make sure it makes sense. Don't just believe anything. Don't believe things, know things. Don't believe things, know things. Otherwise, you run the risk of waking up one day and you're not talking about the old niggas who are ashamed of what they used to do. You'll be one of the old niggas ashamed of what they became. And there'll be a whole group of you sitting around trying to comfort each other. And as your numbers dwindle, you'll be hearing the chorus getting louder of the young people condemning you. The final receipts are coming in and it's not looking good. I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, Andrew L., and everybody else here. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent black thought. We do this every weekend. Over 137,000 subscribers and rising. We are not a little thing. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us every weekend. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War, all available on DVD, on streaming, and on Amazon at blackchannelfilms.com. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.